Welcome everybody. I'm taking you to the baselines and code management. We have seen the overview of configuration management and this is the next session to follow it. So let us have a look at this version. Now here we have to be very careful in this presentation because if we understand it and possibly relate it with the previous presentation, then only we'll be able to get benefited. A version is the initial release or re-release of a software configuration item associated with a complete compilation or recompilation of the item. Compilation or recompilation. So this marks the release or re-release. So there will be frequencies of versions becoming releases. Of course, I have mentioned that version is the internal matter for organization, whereas releases are the external matters for the organizations. The baseline is a specification or product that has been formally reviewed and agreed to by responsible management and thereafter serves as a basis for further development and can be changed only through formal change control processes. Likewise, the CCB has to take in account and take the initiative, perform the status auditing, perform the quality check, then something that has been formally reviewed will be taken care as a baseline formulation. Now the next level deviations could be measured with the help of baseline. Now the difference between version and the baseline is again to see that very clearly. The versions are informally governed. It happens to be compilation and the recompilation of the items again and again till we reach out to the conclusion. Now this is not happening with the baseline, right? So baseline A, the API has been completely been identified and the bodies of the methods are empty. All data access methods are implemented and tested and the GUI is implemented. So you will prefer to have baseline C, which encompasses everything. So now the scheme for baselines is existing 1.0 and so on. So we can see over here major release. Major release is for external entity or typically called as for customer. Minor, it is for internal release. So if something is been guiding as release 7, so that is an external release. 7.1 or 7.1.1 is a small release. So here 7 is the major release. 0.5 is minor, and again 0.5th variation of the compilation recompilation as related in small revision. Going next is that there are, what makes up these baselines? Snapshots or commitment points or control points. Snapshots, they capture the configuration or partial configuration of CI at specific points in time. Commitment points representing approval. We are stretching out to the approval. That is commitment in the particular milestone. And control points that serves to focus management attention. Right? We have achieved this and we are agreeing to this so that you can release it. Functional baseline, an allocated baseline, and development configuration and product baseline. These four categories, they suggest about the configurations and its labels. For functional baseline, we take into account the approved configuration documentation that the system's top level configuration item has, that is its performance. Allocated means the current approved, it's already been approved, okay, current, but the latest version for performance oriented documentation. Okay, so higher level CIs are being picked up. Development configuration, the design and associated. So higher stuff is been taken into development configuration. Product baseline, in that we check around for the approved technical documentation that describes the configuration of CR. Now here in product baseline, you try to understand that whether the necessary physical form or fit or function. Now what is called as functional fit? Functional fit means that the component or the function under consideration does exactly what it is supposed to do and does nothing else. It means that a functional fit has to be 100% tightly associated with abstraction. To remember what is abstraction, it is keeping the needed information and discarding the rest of the information for time being. Now the next study is that production acceptance test requirements. Now software production and release, there is a difference between that. Software production is being usually done in multiple copies. Okay, a release has been shown to the client or the customer based around for uh, gaining the insights or the inputs from the customers or the clients. So to remind you, configuration baseline represent three things: SC square, that is snapshots, commitment points, control points, and it consists of four baselines: functional, allocated, development, and product. As we go from top to bottom, the level of complexity of the baseline is increasing. That is from functional to product. Moving next, just try to see the diagram. Baseline A is developmental, B is functional, that is first prototype. Baseline C is the beta test. So you can see the conformances that are being generated on a regular period. Here, see this arrowhead. This talks about the control points and the commitment points, right? And through the release points, nothing should be remembered, right? So how we can manage the changes? The answer is change management. For that we have got CCB. So to handle the change request and the change management process, we are having the CCB. So we can have two types of controlling the change activity. One is the promotion, that is the internal development state of the software change, internal development state. Release is been made visible outside the development organization. That's what is the stuff. And probably that is what is the difference between version and release. But between version and release, what it stands is the promotion. The promotion is being done for the internal development state of the software, and probably it has been kept internal to the organization. So programmer does the promotion to the master directory, and from the master directory it has been there with the release. Now few of the diskettes are being shown, okay, age old kind of terminologies, right? Now nobody comes up with these diskettes, right? Yeah, everything has gone online. So to how many softwares you may really find now the diskettes, isn't it? Yeah, some of them are still going around with the diskettes. Yeah, but not all. It depends on the size as well. And now the UML class diagram for the same, right? A version can be, now this is the parent-child relationship. a hollow triangle. And a diamond box is an aggregation, that is the whole part. So multiple versions, they makes up controlled item. Now what a version can be? Version can be a promotion or a release. Multiple releases makes up the master repository, and multiple promotions, they can make the master directory. Going back to our example, just see to it, multiple promotions, they make master directory, and multiple releases, they make software repository. Multiple releases, they make up repository, promotions, they make up master directory. And now you can have configuration items or CM aggregate. Now what is CM aggregate? Let us say that when you come around with the definition, a module is a set of interrelated components. So if you will be testing a module, in turn you are bound to test all of the components which are there making up the CM aggregate. So that is what is this stuff is. So you have got programmers directory, that is IEEE says that it is a dynamic library, masters directory, it is controlled library, and software repository, it is a static library. Once it has been released, it is been made for general use. Again, to repeat again, the library types: dynamic means changing, because multiple times you are applying checkouts and check-ins. Remember that I am using checkout process first of all and then check-in, and then controlled library, and lastly the static library. Again, compare this diagram with the previous diagram. Programmers, they do promotions and build master directory, from which you can work around with the releases which are for outside world, and you make up the software repository ready for the user, right? So proceeding next, same is the thing written, but what is the difference? The difference is that what is the promotion and what is the release. If programmers are been doing it, it's called as promotion, and if it is for the target customer, it is called as release, because it has gone outside of your organization. Up to this particular mark, you were there inside the organization. From here onwards, it will be there for outside the organization. Moving next, this diagram we have seen earlier on what makes up the CI, and we make the promotions or releases of the configuration items by having correct application of CCB, correct CM roles, performing CM activities, that is configuration monitoring, then status accounting and reporting. So the change policies, you have to have two policies now. Developers, they do promotions to master directory, and from master directory you have to find out the releases, and you should make the software repository. So you have to narrate the promotion policy to create the master directory, and you have to work out with the release policy so as to work out with the software repository. So if you understand promotion versus release, remember that you are going to have control applied on the change, that is change policy determination. Informal change control policy, which is good for research type environments. Likewise, you have been doing with the EDIs, the kind of an research. If you are making a Google search, you call it as research, because something that is being searched out by Google for you, you are searching. That's why you can call it as research. Formal approach, good for externally developed CI and for releases. So typically we are interested in formal approaches when we are there walking into the industry. Okay. So it speaks about, bug fixing, bug tracking, okay, the change repository, right, CIs, CI is a short form of configuration item. Okay, so just see, no developer is allowed to promote source code which cannot be compiled without errors and warning. No baseline can be released without having beta tested by at least 500 external persons. How you can see to it beta testing done by 500 external persons? Where do we can find them? 500 persons. And again related to that particular area. So 500 is an indicative kind of an figure. Actually, if you have an expert team of 5 and 10, then you will not need 500 people. That is the thing that you have to see. And error-free code will not show errors, will not show warnings. So it means that it comes up with the bugs. See to the objective of testing. Testing's objective is to uncover the errors. Yeah, it is not to comment about the errors which have been absent. So EI8649 and PIN. What is important thing about PIN? Or what is a PIN? Okay, 649 applies unique identifiers. It works out with the unique assignment of product IDs. Then you can see it as a serial number. Lot of date code combination has been done. Okay, it's not done with random number generation. Some kind of an policy has been made upon on that for serial number. Part item number identification, that is PIN. So who assigns this PIN is the developer. Who assigns the PIN is the developer, right? And assigns the discrete part or item of the PIN, right? The part number format is developer's options, but it should not cross 52 characters. Yeah. Because it is a standard for current system not to go beyond 52. Yeah. So you can have parts, assemblies, unit sets, and another property for physical units which can have the part number or simply PIN, that is part of item number identifier. Interface management. We have studied user interfaces, and the interface management is a big question both in case of hardware as well as software. We have seen the user interface from the software point of view. Just to see to it how to categorize the interface, whether the interface suggests the contractual relationship, whether the customer relationship is being affected, that is acquisition activities are being focused, hierarchical relationship, is there any parent-child relationship or whole-part relationship between the interfaces, whether they are being horizontal or whether they are being vertically being aligned, types and complexities of the technical attributes. So that's why you are writing software interfaces and technical interfaces and user interfaces, all three levels in your SRS. Alright, a full-fledged detailed one. And as far as you make it detailed, yeah, it will be very handy for the end user to understand this document. Developmental status, whether these items are being done or not, that monitoring has to be worked out. So ECP, engineering change proposal, you will be checking out certain CI and will be modifying it and writing it back through the check-in sequences. So there are certain short form BCDOPRSV. Alright. So B stands for the interface, C compatibility, D correction of deficiency. If the code is more descriptive, make it shorter, right? remove the deficiency of too much bulky code. Right? Nobody is interested to read the bulky code. Operational or logistic support, production stoppage, cost reduction, safety corrections. That is what you will do in hazardous condition. Please don't be under the impression that the software is fully safe and it will not cause any kind of an hazard. Right? It can cause hazard, right? Physical damage, yeah. At least on a psychological level. Yeah. Value engineering, that is what about the cost reduction. So these are the codes, okay. Again to repeat, BCDO, PRSV. Now Q has been missed out. Why Q has been missed out? Because Q is standing for quality. You can observe PQRS, right? Q is absent there. That is quality, right? Moving next, ECP types and their functions. Message, right? The messages are the kind of an exchanges. So ECPs, if they are being documented in form of formal messages or notifications of compatibility changes, and you can make a waiting time for 30 days, that is 1 month. Yeah. So that is kind of a thing where you require an action, right? You must have been remembering that when Windows was been migrating from XT to next kind of a level, and from Windows 7 to Windows 10, there was an free installation that was being offered by Microsoft. But many of us were being getting very much too much kind of sentimentally associated, or it was our work practice, and typically we are bothered that Windows 7 worked well for me. What about Windows 10? Okay, whether it is a stable system. Because in the past, in the case I remember, Windows 98 was not at all a stable version. People switched back immediately to Windows 95, and in the year 2001 they switched to Windows NT Server, right? And then came the professional editions launch. So preliminary type P, they indicate the team's sufficiency to determine the final ECPs, and then formal, preliminary, and then the formal, saying that the engineering information data was sufficient after the formal CCB approval. So it addresses another issue of emergency, priorities, emergency, urgent, and routine. So which is the bottommost kind of stuff is routine, then urgent, that is implement the change as soon as possible, okay. But emergency is an indicator, that it is an indicator of if not now, then never. If not now, then never. Emergency is a kind of a priority which says that if it is not now, then never. There is now a difference between emergency and urgent that you can understand, right? Time limits can be assigned for urgency, that is, delays, the slippage is not allowed in case of urgent situation, but they are tolerable in case of routine kind of an emergencies. So this is forest level status accounting. This see to it as CSA is about creating and maintaining the knowledge base that is required for performance monitoring. So what you taken into account that for mission you have got the physical configuration, design solution, performance definition, and supplementing element configuration. So outside circle, they start up with the concept and technology development. If technology is not there, or if the concept is not being described thoroughly, then you begin up with the concept and technology. Then system development, production and deployment, and then later on after deployment, here comes the job of maintenance engineers, that is operations and support, right? So you have got as an constraints as likewise contractual provisions, CM, documented, uh, controlled dynamics, communication, CM model, data model, and then multiple documentations are being given, and then you will come to know what is the status quo of that. So this is the relevant structure, okay, status accounting information as far as the life cycle processes are being concerned. For example, for conception, which is the foremost important status accounting information, is the requirement document, and then the change request proposal, and then the environment impact information. Just three. Rest of all are not there into the dictionary of conception as a phase. Now you can see that in operation phase you require almost everything. I am saying almost everything except product replacement information. Okay, probably that you will not wish to have that your product getting replaced by something else. And in disposal, isn't it where you are throwing your product into bins due to new technology? Here you will be beginning again. What is the label? That is configuration document change notice, change request, ECP. Yeah. So these three will determine the which change, what sort of change, how much time duration, at what cost. So VISCONT is 4-level documentation maturity models. That is ad hoc level 1, level 2 is inconsistent, level 3 is defined, level 4 is controlled. Now you may ask me that why not level 5 optimized? It has not been mentioned by VISCONT's framework. So you can read these things, okay, just for matter. I will read about the one of the stuff, that is key indicators, documentation missing or out of date. Then how you will improvise on this situation. Standards are established and the use of check off this, okay, has been made. And software quality assurance like practices can be incorporated. Data analysis and improvement mechanism can be suggested on missing documentation or out of date. So as we move ahead to the stages, we are finding out the solutions, okay, on the problem which were unanswered or being kept at the moment outside of the assessment. So now with the configuration, verification and audit, we have got 4 important processes: verification and audit planning, configuration verification process, pre-audit, audit and post-audit. Now just to see to it, for audit purpose, we require what? Facilities, tools and documentation, personnel, that is people who can do the audit. They should be matured, otherwise there could be complete chaos. Documentation, certifications and status information, physical configuration factors and software configuration factors, and inputs may be there from the CSA, that is configuration status accounting. Moving next, there are the responsibilities related to the configuration management, that is configuration control related, change requests. Likewise, this is a list who will do what. Right, names and versions of configuration items, originator's name and address, date of request, indication of urgency, that is urgent or emergency situation or routine, evaluation of change approval. Okay, CCP will come in picture here. Implement the change, that is the programmer's workspace or the benchmark will be suitable over here in implementing the changes. Next is the CSA, configuration status accounting. For each audit or review, the review is again a management tool. It might not take the support of case tool as such. Objectives, CI under review, schedule to be done and approval criteria are the important things. SCMP we have seen earlier on. Yeah, documents, their responsibilities and so on. CM areas, it covers up the 6 things: source code management, build engineering, environment configuration, change control, release engineering and deployment. 6 phases are needed. So after deployment, it's operation and maintenance, to remind you, right? So just see to it, environment configuration involve managing the compile and runtime dependencies. What is important is compile and the runtime dependencies. Next is the gatekeeping job. That is whether the code is being kept away for the QA matters. So it may work around with priori change control. Release engineering, packaging and identification of all of the components built, deployment, staging and promotion of packaged releases. Remember that versions, promotions and release, they are 3 important aspects of SCM. Gatekeeping, you must know that it prevents unauthorized releases done by some engineers, right, for production, and for that you must have a QA procedure. CM views, it works out with the status accounting, configuration, audit, but before that it should provide specific and unique identity to configuration identification. So this is being worked around by day, isn't it? And again, a clock cycle is required. Okay, there is a tool, okay, Maven, isn't it, which helps you, Maven, which helps you organize your code in logical and sensible way. Next is the defect tracking systems that you must have. You may create sandboxes, right? Sandbox, a source code management tool, and make a small change to the code, right? And the robust code management systems are also, their older ones are CBS, RCS, SCCS. Okay, so GitHub is also one of the modern tools, but there are other types also. Likewise, CMDB is also there, and ITIL also proposes the configuration management. From IBM, it is ClearCase and SODA for configuration management and control. But some of them are really cost effective, isn't it? GitHub is open source. So it's better that you try to learn and accommodate. Okay? Some of you may have used the GitHub. Online book is also been available for GitHub. So source code management, what the programmers want. what the source code writers and managers they want. They want their source code safely locked down. Now we are being locked down, but are we safely locked down? Just see to it. That source code is not lost. That is what is the guarantee that you want, you should have. Yeah? Because a lost source code is a lost source code. You are not going to get it back. Yeah, you have to run your separate tricks. Okay? So there is an thing that one can do. Automated regression testing support you can take, so you can visualize the system at both unit and system level. And tool support has been existing for many of these tests. Okay, they have been typically been called as black box testing stuffs. Okay, the code is locked down and can never be lost because it is the part of master directory. So there is no question of losing the code. You have to check out it again for modification and write it back. Unless you are writing it back with check-in procedures, it may not be lost. So changes on the branches, that is variant, can be also made. That is on main trunk. Likewise, the elephant has got a trunk. On the trunk, there could be multiple, branches. Likewise, I indicated. Likewise, versions, major versions and minor versions, right? And apply the best practices, CM best practices. You can read and understand them because everything will become theoretical if I read slides, okay, like that, okay, for CM practices, right? SCM importance, right? Because you will be following repeated processes. So time is also important criteria. Unnecessary defects, they should not be given too much kind of an scope to come up and gain your brain crunching for a lot of duration. So effective source code management practices has to be incorporated. These varies organization to organization. It's not the case that all the organizations they use one particular CM tool. It is the same case that not all of the organizations they use machine learning algorithms and data science principles, right? So going next, that is losing the source code. If users are not trained, so best of the tools can't help them. So training comes first. Poor to non-existent release. You are claiming that release has been there, but it hasn't taken place. So you haven't moved from the master directory to software directory. Poor communication and poor teamwork, but legitimate results into poor outcome, poor deliverables. Too many moving parts will have diversionary kind of an attention paying towards many of the defective parts, and you should take up the story one at a particular given instance of time. Do not give value to doing too many kind of an tasks as programmers while you are accommodating the client request, because that is a highly paid kind of a job. On-site client support. Baselines and time machine. Okay, many developers think that you have to just do check-ins and check-outs. I have also explained you the importance of check-in and check-out. So just see to it that there is about the way of thinking that you can accept. Do you want to work around on version control or promotion control or release control? Then focusing on checkout and check-ins. This is what is the I can say appeal from my side. Concentrate on what you are releasing. than the processes to accommodate those changes. How the baselines are being formed? That is by baseline tagging. Now today's baseline is 0. How we can know that today is 6th of April? Because there was 1st of April. We have done the counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 6. Today is 6th, right? So baselines must be immutable. So further up changes should not be allowed in the baselines, right? That is what is meaning of immutable. So releases deployed to the production, isn't it? The production means to incorporate the release, okay? That is to move from software repository also to float the things. Now the tag is set to float with the current baseline of the code that is in production. So there are two things: release deployed to production and then release to production. There is a difference between these two. Okay, please be careful. I repeat again: release deployed to production or simply quality assurance. Now, released to production is something different. Okay, you have done all of the checking. Okay, tagging you have done. You have had the metadata labeled about that, and metadata we all know it's nothing else. It's data about data. If I ask you about meta language, it is language about language. If I ask you about meta program, it is program about program. So checkout and check-in comments are very valuable. Checkouts comments can be easily, addressable. Check-ins are been written by the programmer's workbench. So you can accommodate the lightweight CM, then going around for heavyweight. Heavyweight CM is been proposed by which methodologies? Incremental and iterative, that is spiral or unified. Lightweight, it concerns with agile, scrum, lean, DSDM, Kanban. Yeah, it applies to every domain. And another thing, specialty of agile thing is it is driven by TDD, that is test driven development, right? In opposition to use case driven development, that is UDD versus TDD. Reserved versus unreserved checkouts. Checkout is that we are taking the elements from master repository and making the change available. So some of the things can be reserved and checkouts for modification. And other kind of tools, they work around an unreserved checkout model. It is called as optimistic checkout model. No lock is placed on the file. Simultaneous modifications are being done. So optimistic checkout, it results in extra work in the form of merges. You do one file, isn't it? The way you have done your assignment, you can find it out that right at the end you will suffer the challenge of formatting. So integration would be a nightmare when you work around with the unreserved or optimistic checkout. So sandboxes and the workplaces. We are towards the end of the presentation now. Yeah. So sandboxes is one of the kind of an technique, common practice, right? Taking it to have more than one workplace. Workspace is been called as a sandbox. Sandbox, isn't it? Sand hasn't got a definite kind of an shape of its own. It just consists of the sand, isn't it? A box containing sand. Here sand is replaced by programs, right? Variant management, that is branching. Branches again do emerge from the trunks. to remember. Elephants do have trunks, isn't it? Yeah. So, creating the variants, you can create it for Windows, Mac, Linux, Unix, isn't it? Basic features can be clubbed up together, and that's what is the end of the second session. Now I hope so that you are aware about the configuration management overview. What are the important activities? Next time we will take up the careful look at alternative approaches, historical and modern. I am thankful to you for attending this session.